What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about Test Pattern, Canada's unforgettable cult hit game show. I have certainly, as an American, never in my life heard about Test Pattern, and it's honestly got me wondering, is this actually some kind of cult classic in Canada? Do Canadians know about this show? Is it that crazy? It's unforgettable, apparently. According to the creators of this video, Test Pattern is unforgettable, cult hit, which, not surprisingly, kind of grabbed my attention. And if this is anything like weird cult classic shows in America, it's probably pretty entertaining stuff. So I'm extremely curious what this is all about. This still image here, I don't even know what's going on. They have helmets on and there are giant dials. I don't understand, and I want to. I want to understand, or maybe there's no understanding, and that's just part of the beauty. Either way, let's check it out. Test Pattern, Canada's unforgettable cult hit game show.
Hi, we're here live in Toronto, behind the Much Music City building, awaiting this monumental event, people.
Test Pattern was a fun anti-game show
As much a parody of a game show as a game show itself.
What is the norm, and how are we going to make fun of the norm?
It was ridiculous. We all go, what are we doing?
Very messy, very cheap.
The show was just so different than anything else.
But it was insanity.
Okay. Initial thoughts before they get into the details. I like this. This is funny. I think this is funny. A parody of a game show? I'm not exactly sure what that means, because it has to be a game show or there'd be no show, right? Okay, it's just like there is a game show going on, but it's somehow making fun of game shows or just off the wall somehow. But I like the idea. I've never heard of there's nothing like this in America that I'm aware of.
This is insanity.
I was just drawn to it. Test Pattern was a college game that was developed by Insight Productions and Dan Gallagher, and he did them at universities, and they were just silly games.
The whole testing process.
Dan Gallagher, is he famous? Yeah, he comes up. What? American Lawyer? No, get out of here. Get out of here, Dan Gallagher from America. Television host. Best known for hosting Test Pattern on Much Music between 1989 and 1991. Okay. Fair enough. He was the host.
On college campuses to make sure that when we finally went to TV, we had it right.
The show is broken.
Oh, they did test audiences of this. And apparently the test audiences must have liked it.
College campuses to make sure that when we finally went to TV, we had it right.
The show is broken into 3 parts. The first part, we had a game board made out of what looked like television squares.
You had to throw these fake bricks to break the fake TV set.
Okay.
We had this wheel of death kind of thing where a contestant would lie down on the wheel.
And we'd spin them around.
We had it painted green so we could superimpose whatever we wanted. Nothing funnier than seeing a half-nauseous person on their back spinning around making noises.
Okay, I forgot to even mention this. I like a good game show. I'm a sucker for a game show channel, boring game shows, fun game shows, quizzes, stupid stuff. So slapping people down on a thing and spinning them around as the dial, a human dial, I like it. I don't mind this at all.
As it looks like they're spinning it down a toilet.
They could win spinner winner. What they get? A 2-slice toaster, and they'd go crazy.
The prizes were junk.
You're no prize yourself.
Might as well play it up and have fun with it.
Yeah.
The man in the wheel is going back to Barry with something precious. A brand new 2-slice toaster, Howie! There you go.
Okay, well, obviously this is pretty low budget, and it's like part of the show that the prizes suck. And so the prizes are low budget as well. That kind of work. That's kind of brilliant. Just everything kind of is really shoddy and junk. But that's just a part of it. It's kind of funny. Be kind of a badge of honor to get a toaster from this show.
We would then ask them questions based on various silly things.
Do you have a pet cat when you were young?
I helped develop this helmet with a light bulb on top.
And you had to smack your melon and say, it's my turn.
That was a level of comedy we aspired to.
That's good. That's good. This is almost like yeah, I see what they're saying. It's more like a comedy show than a game show.
That was a level of comedy we aspired to.
Dan Gallagher was a great front person.
He was larger than life.
Literally and figuratively.
Danny had that blue collar appeal. People would see Dan and they would reach over to shake his hand.
Come at you as a big guy. He had long hair. He had a big booming voice.
You got it! Give me a point!
You know, it's I can see how important it would be on a show like this crazy, that you have a personality that matches, that can match the energy, and kind of make it all seem like it's legit in a way. By being larger than life themselves, kind of where in comparison it makes sense that the show exists.
Beautiful, beautiful Bernie!
We put him in really outrageous outfits.
Custom-made suits, the loudest, brashest things you've ever seen.
He was like a glam rock star hosting a game show.
Dan was a very, very bright guy and very smart in television. He hadn't had a lot of TV experience, but he knew what was right.
Dan was the center of all the chaos. There were shows we shot that, like, they ended and we're like, oh my God, that was just the worst. And he's like, no, it was fine. And you see, because he's kibitzing with the contestants, he had a knack of figuring out what was going on.
Yeah, that's another thing. If the show really is kind of held together by string and tape, barely held together, it was kind of up to him, if I'm interpreting this all correctly, to make the show make sense and to make it seem like something like worth watching. Otherwise, it would just come across as a piece of crap. Whereas a good host can make it, seem legitimate and good. And it sounds like he really accomplished that.
2, 4, 6 whole Canadian dollars going back. And Sully, thank you very much.
Labatt's were our sponsors, and I was the first person that had convinced Labatt's that they had a much broader audience than just sports. A whole audience that loves rock and roll, and you're not playing to them. We were really directing the comedy and the game.
I feel like I'm missing something, because Labatt's Blue? I don't know what that is. Labatt's Blue. Oh, Google knows. No worries. It's beer. The world's best-selling Canadian beer, by the way. In case you didn't know. You guys didn't know. It's not me. It's not me who didn't know. You didn't know. I knew that. Yeah, totally. Labatt's Blue. Okay, it's Canadian beer. I get it now.
Towards a very specific demographic.
There was a comedic sensibility behind it that was more, I don't want to sound too grandiose, but, like Andy Kaufman.
I could always imagine some of our fan base getting really high and kind of going, oh my God, what are they going to do next?
I'm not saying that was part of the creative process, but maybe it was.
Yeah.
It was the golden age of David Letterman, who broke all the rules with TV, as he had his writing staff come out and deliver lines badly.
Everybody who worked on the show was in the show.
It was very loosey-goosey.
We didn't have any rules. There might have been sort of one rule.
Well, this makes total sense, with how they've described how the show goes. That everything was unhinged, even the writers.
Simply no assholes allowed.
A camera person would make a suggestion and we try to incorporate it.
We couldn't afford to hire outdoor actors and other people, so literally if you were a writer on the show, we could just throw you into being a character.
Who is my lovable sidekick on Test Pattern?
Her lovable side is Luciano Casimiri.
Why is the show called Test Pattern? He just said the name. And it just had me thinking, they've pretty much explained the show, even though it makes no sense. But why Why is it called Test Pattern?
A terrific writer, Lou Cacciamiri, worked on the program, and he created a character called the Hairy Back Brothers, and he had a particularly hairy back.
Oh my
He
God.
and Franklin were the Hairy Back Brothers.
We went out there just wearing bathing suits with our back to the audience and a number of stickers on our back.
And people had to pull off different things from their back to find out if they got points.
You're supposed to put a little Vaseline so it doesn't stick so much. It's like, okay, Frank, here it comes.
Wow.
And Dan would just rip it off. And this was my first job in television.
Luch played a
Do they not have footage of that? Come on, they gotta have footage of that. Maybe it's too graphic. Maybe it's just them screaming bloody murder and agony. But okay, that is sacrificing for your art. Wow.
number of characters.
Grotesque characters.
Get up close and take a sniff of Pablo's hands.
He was Aunt Elia.
So he'd come out in drag with a giant hairy mole.
One of the penalties on the show for doing something wrong was you had to kiss Aunt Elia's hairy mole. It was rather gross where we put this mole on his face with little hair sticking out of it.
We experimented with things that were outrageous.
You know, it's rare that you have a show that not only has rewards, but this show had punishments as well. Wow.
We create these games. One in particular I will never forget. It was for our Thanksgiving show. It was the most disgusting idea. It was put the egg back in the turkey.
I can't believe we're, trying to put an egg up a turkey's cloaca.
A little trivia about our course. Ironically, the cloaca is where the egg would normally exit the body.
Putting an egg up a turkey's ass? I mean, where did you come up with that?
I think it's very funny.
The wilder and crazier we got, the more and more the fans seemed to love it.
Yeah, honestly, putting the egg into the turkey that's not even that edgy compared to what it sounds like they were doing.
The show really became an underground hit.
We really had a rabid fan base.
Oh my gosh, look at this headline.
An underground hit.
In a world of game shows, it's at the top of the toilet. That's all you gotta know. Yeah, how much of a hit was this, Are a lot of Canadians aware of this show? Because it really calls itself a cult classic, which means it's a cult. Like, not literally, but it's a small group of people who know this show and loved it. So, I don't know if a lot of Canadians are familiar with this.
We really had a rabid fan base, and they'd show up in droves to get in the show. We'd have to turn people away.
We were twice featured on Entertainment Tonight as interesting and different game shows from around the world.
It was very exciting when we started getting some notifications from people in the international press who kind of said, you guys should check out this show in Canada.
It played 3 times a day, 5 days a week. The repeat value was amazing, which was part of the downfall because
it was pretty edgy.
I don't write these questions, I just ask them. What Olympic sport features men competing without cocks? That's C-O-X.
Didn't really apply to earlier time slots in a day, and beer advertising as well as an issue.
Labatt was all over it. We got some comments that it was playing at a too early time for younger kids.
It seemed to end with this sense of success instead.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, Even though things have found success, like, I don't know, South Park, pretty edgy, Family Guy, adult TV shows in today's day have found success. Whereas it sounds like this show may have lived and died by, not being able to attract enough sponsors and because they didn't want to be associated with some of this craziness and adult content. So I kind of get what they're saying.
Instead of running it out, we kind of left when it was still really on the top of its game.
Test Pattern finished, and Dan went on to other stuff, and Insight went on to other things, and I went on to other things.
Dan wanted to be a star. Pretty soon thereafter, he was hosting Video Countdown on Much Music. He became a VJ.
I remember when I got the news, I just about fell over.
Dan died.
And it broke my heart.
He died way, 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 way too young.
He was an incredibly talented, generous, lovable guy.
Okay, so this is Dan Gallagher again. I might as well click his Wikipedia since they're talking about it. In January 2001, He was found dead in his home by his brother after a sudden illness. That was 21 years ago. It was believed that Gallagher had contracted pneumonia during a trip to Barbados? He died of pneumonia? Or pneumonia-related illness? He was 43. Dang. That is too bad. He was a DJ at the Bull Ring, starred in a low-budget horror freak show, in-stadium host of Toronto Argonauts football games at the Sky Dome. Wow. And weekend talk programs on CFRB in Toronto. Yeah. Great career. Seemed like a cool guy.
And a big loss for television.
I have no doubt that, you know, if he would have stuck around, that he'd be still on the air regularly on television.
We managed to sell the show to a cable channel that wanted to buy all 195 episodes, and I really thought that it was appropriate that the proceeds that we got from selling the program be passed on to his family.
Oh man, you know, this is very sad what they're talking about. Very sad, but that person just reminded me, maybe you can watch this somewhere still. If they sold the rights to someone, or maybe there's just an episode on YouTube or something of Test Pattern. I would oh man, would YouTube ban one of these episodes if it was too adult, too edgy? I don't know. But this makes me curious. I'd want to see an episode of this show.
That money went to Dan's mother.
There's a group of us that remain Danny's friends. We always have a glass of something on the day that he passed away and remember some of the good memories.
Maybe the best time of my life. It was just amazing.
Youth is crazy. We were all ambitious. We felt we'd done something really cool and really special.
Yeah.
I kept reminding.
It genuinely is cool. Like, they came up with this show, put it all together, wrote it, made it happen. People liked it. That's cool.
Reminding people at the time that you will never have this freedom again in your entire career.
I still think it's one of the most inventive television shows, game show or not, that was on TV, and it was, I believe, ahead of its time.
Maybe. Maybe it was ahead of its time. It probably was, honestly. Maybe too crazy, though. Would make a good YouTube channel, though. This was by Canadian Game Shows. I give that a like, for sure. I enjoyed that. What do the people say about this? Loved watching the show back in the day. Dan Gallagher was one of the main reasons that I watched it. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I loved Test Pattern. My whole family watched this together in the early 90s. Okay, early 90s. So if you were watching this, you'd have to be like 40 years or older, 40 years old or older to have any memory of this show, basically. I used to watch Test Pattern all the time, unless they show reruns. Maybe if they've showed reruns, or if this is a cult classic that spread by word of mouth, maybe younger people do know about this show. I don't know. I used to watch Test Pattern all the time. I remember when Dan Gallagher was the host of Video Hits, another favorite show. Okay, a lot of Dan Gallagher fans. Cool. This seems like Canada's answer to Remote Control. Remote Control. That almost sounds familiar. Is that another cult classic somewhere? This was... So this was Much Music's Remote Control. Remote Control. Huh. That's not an American show, is it? Remote Control TV show? Let's just go with show. Game show. Ran on MTV, yeah. I think this was American. Huh. It was some wacky, crazy... It sounded kind of familiar. I haven't seen that either. I know more about Test Pattern than Remote Control. And I'm okay with that, because this seemed cool. This was cool. I like out-of-the-box wacky stuff like this. I like game shows. This seems like it was probably pretty funny. I enjoyed this video. It's almost like a mini documentary about this whole thing. That's pretty cool. I totally understand why it's an unforgettable cult hit game show. it deserves it. This like checks every box for that. That's funny. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canadian culture stuff in Canada that I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.